Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to start our free agent predictions segment. This week we're going to be doing running backs. For this segment, and actually for the rest of the show, is just going to be me. Let's just get this thing started. As far as the running back market goes, there are a lot of guys out that I think will help teams, but these 5 guys I think are going to be big names that are going to come off the board that have been starters in the league before. Let's start with the big name and get the elephant. Let's address the elephant in the room. Le'Veon Bell is a free agent. He's gonna might be franchise tagged, but in the end, I don't think he will be. He'll be a free agent at the deadline. He'll be the free agent at the start of the new league year, and he'll be a guy that will be sought out after. He'll be a big target for teams out there in free agency, and ones that'll pay him. In my opinion, I think the biggest fit for Le'Veon Bell will be the San Francisco 49ers. They're able to pay him. They have a promising young quarterback that could extend his career. They're going to be drafting, I think, offensive linemen. And in total, for the 49ers, they have a team that I think is on the rise, and they're going to be a lot better than this year. I think they're going to be better than the Seahawks, and they're definitely going to be better than the Cardinals. The San Francisco 49ers are on the rise, and they're going to be an even better team going into the 2018 season, not to even mention the 2019 season, where they're going to just have weapons upon weapons offensively with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach, and defensively with Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, who's fastly become a star, and just all of these guys that are going to be stars in the league on the 49ers. This may be the next dynasty in the NFL, and I'm dead serious about that, because I think Le'Veon Bell on the 49ers would make them the clear favorite over anyone in the NFC West, and possibly even Super Bowl contenders next year. That team is going to be absolutely better than they were the last few years. And I think Le'Veon Bell, that's the start. You get Le'Veon Bell off the board, and all these running backs now, I think, are going to be setting the market for the running backs of the future. But it starts with Le'Veon Bell. If I were to predict a contract for him, 4 years, probably $65 million. That's a hefty contract, but they're going to give it to him because this guy, I think, deserves it. But let's move on to the next name, and that is running back Dion Lewis of the New England Patriots. Was on the New England Patriots this year. He was the starting back. He was very effective for them. He sealed up the game against Jacksonville in the championship game. He made a lot of great plays for them this year. But it has been reported out there by both Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network and Adam Schefter of ESPN that he is going to go elsewhere. And if I'm going to pick a team where he's going to go, think of running back needy team that needs speed, needs elusiveness, needs a guy who can do everything, is a very well-balanced back. And to me, that team is the New York Giants. I think the New York Giants need a guy, especially, actually I'm not going to spoil that yet, because I think after this, I'm going to do a mock draft episode. That's right, I'm releasing my very first mock draft for the channel and for the series. I think it's going to be very fun. It's going to be fun for me. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that, especially to see, like, for the listeners out there, who their teams are going to pick. It's just a great thing for any NFL fan. But let's get back to the Giants. I think Dion Lewis makes perfect sense for them with the new head coach. Eli Manning staying on the team, there's no question about that. But Dion Lewis would be a great grab for them, and I think would change the way they play. He'd be a great running back. He'd be a big name guy. He'd be able to fill in the holes that they have pretty easily, I believe. And he would turn the Giants franchise, I think, immediately into a playoff contending team. And if they do everything right this year, they definitely will be that. But in the end, they're going to draft a guy that I think will be their immediate starter. but Dion Lewis will be a very good change of pace back. And we're going to move on to the next guy, and that's Carlos Hyde, San Francisco 49ers running back Carlos Hyde. I think the Niners would love to keep him, but if they're going to go sign Le'Veon Bell, Hyde's going elsewhere. And one team that I can really see, there are a couple teams that I can see Hyde going to. Number one would be Houston. I think Houston would try to pay him. I think maybe New England would try to pay him. Maybe even Indy tries to pay him. But I am going to say this. I think it's a great fit for him. I think he goes to the Seattle Seahawks. And the reason why I think Carlos Hyde goes to the Seahawks is because he's a bigger back. He's also a great catching back. And with Seattle's offensive line challenges, Carlos Hyde fits perfectly with that. He's going to be a guy that can escape the holes. He can get out in coverage. He can be able to catch. He's able to catch a ball, and Russell Wilson's the best scrambling quarterback in the league. I think Carlos Hyde in a Seattle Seahawks uniform, in CenturyLink Field, the loudest stadium in the NFL, would really be a tone setter for the Seattle Seahawks franchise, and I think one that they desperately need. Other than that, there's not a lot of other teams that I think Hyde's really suited for that they need, but when he goes to Seattle, of course, because this is all just a prediction, it's going to be a big, big deal, and I think it's going to change the course of the NFC West if he goes there. Next up, we have Doug Martin. Doug Martin was recently released by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there's not a lot of teams that I can really see him going to. One team that jumps out in my mind that he might go to, I think he's going to stay in the NFC, but I think the Detroit Lions are one team. Doug Martin, to me, he's a fast back, but he's a power back. He's not a great pass-catching back, but he can really make it work. The thing I have with Doug Martin is he's going to be your workhorse back. He's going to be the guy that you put back for like 2 drives, maybe 3, just to pound it and get some yards and run the clock. That's what he's going to be for the Detroit Lions if they take him. Another team that I think could grab him would be probably a team like the Redskins would probably go after him. Maybe a team like the Chargers. The Raiders might. The Broncos may. And a few other teams I think there are going to be a lot of teams in the running back market this year, but I think Doug Martin fits the Lions perfectly. He's a guy that you can use for short plays. He's not a big play back, but you can use him on the short plays. You have Amir Abdullah. You're probably going to draft a Sonny Michel or Nick Chubb. Ronald Jones II, you might draft him. But who knows? I think the Lions need to revamp that running back core. And I think Doug Martin's a perfect start for that, despite him being an older player. He's a good running back who I think just needs a change of scenery. And the next guy we have on here definitely needs a change of scenery, and that's Jeremy Hill, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals. He got replaced by Joe Mixon, who I think is quickly becoming one of the more elite backs in the game. Giovanni Bernard is the change of pace back in Cincinnati, so that leaves Jeremy Hill as the odd man out. Jeremy Hill was a good back once upon a time, and now he's not a good fit there anymore with Joe Mixon taking his role. One spot that I can see him going to, would be the Redskins. I think the Redskins could pay him. I think the Packers could pay him because he's not going to be that expensive of a running back. But if you look at the teams going forward and you look at how these running backs are going to be evaluated, especially with the draft class, because this is a very deep running back draft class, Jeremy Hill's not going to be a guy that gets sought after, even after these 4 guys I mentioned above him. But Jeremy Hill will be a guy that I think has veteran experience that teams are going to go look for. I think teams like maybe the Rams will try to look for a change of pace guy. Who knows? But I look at this and I think not a lot of teams are going to want Jeremy Hill. The Jets might. The Dolphins may. I think the Dolphins would be a very big team to go grab him. But in the end, I don't know how this is going to go down for Jeremy Hill, especially with his last couple of years in Cincinnati not being what he wanted it to be. That just leaves it in question. A few other guys of note in the running back department would be Jerick McKinnon, who I think is going to stay with the Vikings. A few other guys out there who are playing good football, and they're going to be sought out after by a lot of teams. And I think running backs are going to be flying off one of the first days of free agency and in the draft. A few draft guys to be looking after. I mentioned some. Saquon Barkley, Darius Geis, Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb, Ronald Jones III, Kerryon Johnson. Those guys I would look for in the draft. I mean, last year you had your big four or big three because Joe Mixon wasn't a very popular player based off of his circumstances. But you had Leonard Fournette, you had Dalvin Cook, you had Alvin Kamara. You had guys that were studs, and then you had guys like Corey Clement, and Tariq Cohen, guys that showed up to play, and they did a great job for those teams, and I think you can for the teams they're on. And just looking at the teams moving forward and what they're going to be looking for in running backs, this is going to be a really weird year for signing running backs in free agency because the draft class is so deep. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about these predictions. Even put your own predictions down in the comment section below. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this. This is going to be a very interesting offseason for the running backs, and I think the quarterbacks as well that we covered last week. And next week we're going to be covering, I think, one of the more important positions on the offense, despite it getting kind of swept under the rug. That's the wide receivers, the top wide receiver market in the NFL. I think the five guys will be covering Allen Robinson. That's questionable if he gets tagged. Watkins. And players like that who are going to be out in free agency that'll be, I think, beneficial to other teams. So yeah, just let me know what you guys thought. Put down your predictions for the running back, for these five running backs in free agency in the comment section below. I will be posting this entire episode on Facebook as well, so comment down there as well. So yeah, stay tuned for the next segment. We're going to be doing basically a recap of the week, who got, or the big moves, and there's one big move I want to talk about, and a couple other players that I think we can also do predictions on them too, because they're not really top name players. But yeah, stay tuned.